Welcome to the Artichoke Heart Podcast, peeling back the layers to get to the heart of what really matters, with your hosts, Maggie Butterfield, Ruth Harris, and Gretchen Peters. We're so glad you're here. Welcome to the Artichoke Heart Podcast. We're so excited that you are here. We're going to be peeling back the layers to find out what really matters, to get to the heart of things. And so I'm Gretchen, and this is
Maggie.
And I am Ruth.
And we're so excited to get to join with you guys. Us three moms are going to be coming together for this podcast. And you can also check us out on YouTube. And we're just excited to get to be moms encouraging others, coming together to talk about deep issues, trauma, hard things. And so we just wanted for this first episode to kind of be able to introduce ourselves, let you know what we're going to be talking about over the next coming weeks. So, who would like to talk first?
Well, you have the ball rolling. I think you should start, Gretchen.
Well, I think that was a little bit of a scapegoat. You just first. Okay, so I am just really passionate about things to do with family. I am a Christian. I have 4 children, and I used to be a teacher. I still am, most people would say, because I moved into homeschooling my children and into directing and leading a homeschool program. My family's in foster care, so we're really passionate about stuff to do with children that have gone through trauma. There's just so many things I could talk about, but really I have 4 children that I absolutely adore. I think that God has blessed me with them, and that I want to make sure that I am being purposeful and intentional as a mother. And I like learning from other moms. So that's one reason I'm really excited to be doing this with you ladies, because we're going to get to just talk and share ideas and encourage each other and hopefully encourage others.
Yeah, no, that's really good.
So Maggie, tell us about
really
you.
Good. Yeah, well, I'm just excited to have, just to be able to share and to be able to share things I'm passionate about with my friends. That's exciting. I love relationship. I love community. And God is so faithful that He provides those things. And I feel like this is a great platform for me personally. I'm really passionate as well about families, about raising kids that are countercultural in our day and age. It's hard to find, kids that want to do God's will and to live godly lives. And as well, just rhythms and routines for family wellness. Like wellness is a really big passion of mine. And health and traditional cooking, things like that, and dealing with trauma, all those things under that umbrella. I feel like it's just been, these are things that are really relevant in our day and age. And I have three kids as well, not 4, 3, and so we're going down the line here. But I want to raise them and give them the best start to their lives, and just equip them for what they're going to be facing in the years to come as well. So I'm really, really glad to be here.
Well, I am Ruth, and as she mentioned, I have 2 kids of my own, actually 13 and 9. I can't believe that we're almost a double-digit home of kiddos. I just can't believe how time just flies, but we all share in common that we are educators. We all 3 used to work in the public school system and treasured that time there, and now we are all homeschooling mamas. And so I think can be said of all of us that we just really have a passion for families and just dispersing any kind of wisdom that we have onto all of you. I had a lot of trauma growing up, and so that is something very near and dear to my heart. I went to school for ministry and also education, and I just have a passion for working with families in the same way that these 2 ladies do. And so just love any opportunity that I can get to grab a mug and talk with a mama or a family and just talk about unique struggles that we have, and that you're not alone. And that we can just cheer each other on, and we're there to hold each other up. And so, if we could just offer that to you, that is what we want to bring to the table. So
that was so good.
Yeah.
Yes. We're just so excited about this. I forgot to mention my girls, my 3 oldest girls are 15, almost 13 this week. 10, and then I have a little boy that's 3. So I've got kind of the whole range there of like working through the terrible 3s, which more than the terrible 2s, right? All the way to
teenagers.
Yes, all the way up to getting into the teenagers and like starting to worry about driving and like all the things, teenager issues. Like I think there's just so much that we can talk about, you know, with parenting and also just as women, like I think it's neat to talk about goals and to talk about what things we think about, what things go into our lives with our church, to our marriages, to just there's so much that we can get to talk about here.
Yeah, and I think too, it's like even every kid, I have 3 girls, 13 as well, 9.5, and then 4.5, and they are 3 completely different personalities. So it's, how do you parent a child in the same home with all very different, you know, all very different challenges, different strengths, different weaknesses. I want to be able to do that, and I know it takes a village. I do feel like having these conversations about these different issues as we're raising our kids are going to just be so valuable, so helpful. To work together, you know, and to expound on some of the things, you know, I know for me, when I need help with something in my parenting, I listen to a podcast sometimes. I'm looking for things to, you know, just to equip my kids. And so, again, we hope we can have some of those conversations about some of that stuff. So.
Well, and I just think every time we talk, we get into these things where I'm like, oh, we could talk about birth order. Oh, we could talk about
or birth.
Personalities, birth. Yes, no, there's a million things as moms that I think our brains are always working. It's why a lot of the times, like at night, I'm like, why won't this brain shut off? And it's just so nice to be able to come together with friends and talk, and to let others in on that too, and get to share. You know, it just feels good to have friends that you get to talk about. And one of our other plans that we have is that we are going to have guests on here. So, you know, sometimes if we're talking about something like something our kids are going through with maybe sensory disorder or autism or something, to bring in specialists who can maybe talk to us about special nutritional things or about their specialties. We want to learn from others.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I know that, you know, I feel like I've been learning a ton lately when it comes to even having a rhythm and a routine for health and wellness. And that doesn't just mean physical, that's spiritual, emotional, mental, all of it, you know, going together in our day and age, especially as moms. You know, we've been talking about this where we don't have, it seems like there's just not enough hours in the day to get all the things done. We're forgetting things, you know. How do we have balance in that? How do we have a healthy rhythm in our families to facilitate growth and to facilitate you know, spiritual well-being, and that our kids, and another theme for me, it's like a strong family identity. How do we create a strong family identity so that our kids have that to fall back on, that there's not an insecurity? I didn't grow up with that, so we're creating that. You know, people have poured into my life, but you know, it's just so nice to be able to work together as moms, to be able to figure out how do we create that within our own home, so that our kids feel that safety and security.
So what else do we want to tell them?
Yeah, well, what do you think about when you think about peeling back the layers? Like when we think about the meaning of the artichoke heart, you know, that, because people don't talk about surfacey things. I think in our day and age, they don't want to talk about what's really, really there.
And you know, emotional intelligence is really something that is being talked about right now, both in the education world and in the medical world. I think that maybe a long time ago it wasn't really appropriate to talk about your emotions, and that wasn't something that gave you a leg up in the world. But emotional intelligence, just being able to raise children who know that sometimes you're angry and sometimes you're sad, and it's okay, and pressing down never leads to good things. And so just teaching them how to be in touch with their emotions so that their emotions don't control them. We have a huge precedence of suicide in the younger generations. I mean, we're talking kids that should still be outside playing, wanting to end their life. And, you know, we could blame it on social media, we could blame it on Netflix, we could blame it on food, but we really just, it's one of my favorite quotes by Mother Teresa is, if you really want to change the world, just go home and just love your family. Sometimes just getting back to the basics. Son, you fell, you hurt your knee. It's okay to cry. You're upset. It hurts, and not just smushing down those feelings. And I think just teaching our kids that it's okay to process those feelings. And that's why emotional intelligence is really just such a big thing. And I, you know what, as I think back to our grandpas and grandmas, or even in the Bible, those things have always been there. We just kind of shoved them under the rug, or now maybe we're just giving it a name. But raising children who know how to process their feelings will, I truly believe we could see a lower incidence of suicide in our 12-year-old babes or whatever, because they know that it's okay to feel upset. And I like to think of feelings on a dashboard. I went to a counselor one time who talked about, you are not anxious. That's not who you are. You are not an anxious person. You feel it, because that is a button on your dashboard. Just like when your battery light comes on in your car, it needs attention. You need to tend to your battery. Well, when you feel anxious, that's a feeling that we have for a reason. And so instead of suppressing and having our babes that are just so frustrated and overwhelmed and depressed, just teaching them to look at the dashboard and why is that on? Well, it's okay to deal with that and not press it down so that it doesn't lead to further struggles.
And to that point too, so one thing that I learned about like an OCD, which I struggle with now even, but even as a child, and trauma and things like that, you don't, like you said something about anxiety, you have it, you do that because that's what your brain knows. Right. That's what you learn to, that's a coping mechanism, it's like, I never thought of it like that. I'm like, okay, well you don't have OCD, you do OCD because that's how you learn how to cope with that. So it's very interesting.
Yes. Well, and so often we're trying as moms to help our children navigate these things, but sometimes we're still navigating them ourselves.
Absolutely.
Oh, yes.
We're like, yes, I'm still working through this myself, and being able to teach our kids that, hey, here's what mom's going through too. I want to show you what the journey looks like to finding good paths, or to finding ways to help yourself through those things. I think that a lot of moms are very anxious right now. They're trying to juggle too many things, do too many things. Our world is very fast paced. I found with having children of all those ages, just trying to like, oh wait, she wants to do this sport and she wants to do this program, and how do I do it all, and trying to figure out what does that look like, what is a joyful life, how do we manage things and say
because
yes
they're
to
good
something,
things, right?
Yes.
They're great things, but too many.
But you can't do it all.
Right.
Yes, you can't do it all. So I think that is a neat thing to be able to talk through. How do we do the best things for our lives as moms too, so that we can pour out and teach and talk to our kids the best way.
Yeah, absolutely.
And vulnerability too, just to know, gosh, that we don't have to have it all figured out right now, and maybe being vulnerable isn't weakness. Maybe showing our kids that we're still trying to figure it out too will prepare them well for life, because I've never met a human being who has it all together right now. It's a process from here to heaven. We're never perfect here, and so maybe just reminding them of that gently, that we're all in process constantly.
Right.
Sometimes I think we compare someone who is doing really great or at a really great place, but you don't get to see their whole journey,
Right.
and we'll compare ourselves when we're down here going, I'm in a really rough spot, and you really just have to keep focused on what things you're working on and not get into that comparison act.
Absolutely.
It's good to have to see other moms, because we actually should learn from each other. We should feel like, oh wow, she's at a good place. I love having older moms that I know I can look to and say, hey, you've been here already.
Yes.
Well, what
Let me
things
get
can
some
I
input,
learn from you? I mean, I was so thankful when one of my daughters was real little and she was going through some stuff. Another mom whose daughter was like 12 years older came over to me and she was like, my daughter was just like yours. and like walked me through, like, you're gonna be fine, look at her now, and you're like, okay, thank
And in
you.
the struggle, in the moment, you feel like it's just you.
Yeah.
Nobody else,
no one else has those struggles. Or you're a bad mom, or you haven't reached the bar, you're gonna mess your kids up. I mean, but those seasoned moms are so helpful. I have so many older mamas, mentors. Oh my goodness, I literally don't know what I would do without them. And I actually went to a women's conference just last weekend, and we talked about adult friendships and the importance of that, or adult girlfriend relationships, and it doesn't necessarily have to be that we find someone to latch on to that's 20 years older than us, but just I think it's so important to have each other and maybe even having an array of sisters, maybe some that are in this nitty gritty with us right now, raising kids, to know what we're talking about, but also those who've been through it, to let you know that there's light at the end of the tunnel. You know, as a homeschooling mom, I am terrified on more than one occasion that I will mess my children up, that society will embrace them as crazy and unequipped, and I know that that's nonsense. But it's so nice to have mamas who've been there to say they will be okay. And one of the most valuable bits of information I've been given on homeschooling is that you have 18 years. Yeah. And honestly, friends, whether you homeschool, private, public, loving your babes, everything else is just, it'll find its way. Yeah. But one of the greatest bits of information I've been given is that you have 18 years. Doesn't matter how they get there, but there's 18 years. I used to panic about driving, and my friend said, thank goodness we have 18 years. You don't have to do that right now. So we have this process that we forget about.
Each stage. And
it doesn't even matter. It will work out. But having mamas who have been there to say, been there, it will be okay.
Well, and I think I love the difference in this panel too, because all three of us are very different too. Like for me, I remember my husband coached a homeschool league, and I'm like, I'm never going to do that when I have kids. Yeah. Like that was how I felt, and I had a friend tell me, don't not homeschool because you don't want God to grow your character. I'm like, because I knew, and I know now, in my soul, that this is the right choice. But I'm not a naturally patient person, like my two friends, right? And
totally. Don't come to my house if you think I'm not
so for all of you out there that think I don't have the patience, I'm not creative. I'm really not artsy. I'm not creative. They are both very creative, but there's different gifts that we each have that we each can bring to the table if we decide to homeschool. You can do it if you want. You can. I think God has taken me on a journey for that and shown me what really matters about the reason why I'm doing what I'm doing. We'll expound on that in further episodes, but yeah, you don't have to have it all figured out.
And knowing how to team up with other moms. I mean, where I'm lacking, it's so nice to have friends that you're like, hey, can you help me with this? Can we work together?
Yeah.
Can we trade at this? I think that's so important. And
that reminds me of something that she said a minute ago. Did you say something along, it takes a village? I mean, even the most amazing mom that I have met, who I think is just a little angel and has it all figured out, clean house, everything, really spending time, we all need a village. She has a village. I mean, we can't accomplish everything all by ourselves. We need each other.
Oh gosh,
and it's okay. And it's okay to have a messy house when your friend comes over.
Or a
it
messy
makes
garage.
You feel good. Makes you realize that it's life and it's okay.
Yeah.
Well, and I'm excited too because we've actually all just been friends for a shorter time. And I think that means that we've got a lot to learn about each other.
We do, yeah.
And so as we have our audience join with us, we get to all get to know each other together. Absolutely. And so, we love to have that communication. So if people ever have an idea of things that we should talk about, go ahead and send them our way. You can post below our YouTube or underneath our podcast. Subscribe, yes, get on there.
Get the word out about the Artichoke cart.
Yes, because we're going to have a lot of fun. I think this is going to be just a really cool time for us to connect together and connect with you guys and to go deep. Like, I really am excited because there are so many issues as we parent that just aren't talked about easily. Right. And also maybe not talked about wisely. I definitely, it's kind of like the issues that our children go through with growing up and maturing and going through puberty and, getting around technology and that stuff. Sometimes I'll hear tips from podcasts or TV shows where maybe it doesn't have a Christian background. And it's really nice for us as Christian women to come together and be able to share, how are we navigating this? How are we trying to raise children who are going to make wise decisions
in the midst of a dark world? Yeah.
Absolutely.
Some of the topics will be really good, deep, and not always easy to talk about. So we're going to dig into some of those.
Yeah. Okay. We're super excited. We hope that you will join with us. Please subscribe and start following along with us as we come together every 2 weeks to just chat with you, to have some deep issues. We'll make sure that we are posting what we're going to be talking about so that you guys can be looking forward to it.
Yes.
Okay.
Very excited.
Thank you.
Yes,
see you
bye,
later.
everyone.
Bye.
I didn't say anything right in the middle of it, but what about show notes? Are we going to do show notes?